Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Unwelcome. It's a Shudder exclusive and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, June 23rd, so this is a no spoiler review. Now, I'm going to tell you up top, if you're a fan of folk horror films, this may be a film you do want to check out. If you don't like folk horror films, you may not like this one, but if you're kind of in the middle with, like me, I like folk horror. I'm not like nuts about it. It's solid. It's solid. I didn't love this film. I didn't hate this film. There's some good stuff, some bad stuff. I'm going to talk about both those things as I normally do. So let's get into it. Unwelcome, directed by Jon Wright, who also directed Tormented, Grabbers, and Robot Overlords, just to name a few. I have seen Grabbers. I really enjoyed Grabbers. It's a lot of fun. It's a hilarious film. So check that out if you like kind of horror comedies that are well done. The premise of that one is basically these people have this like sea creature that's trying to kill everyone in the town, but they end up finding out that if you're drunk, it won't touch you. So the people trying to fight it are drunk the whole time, so it's funny. And there is a little bit of that humor that ends up getting imbued into Unwelcome as well. Sometimes to good degree, sometimes to not great degree. This film's written by Wright as well as Mark Stay, who also wrote the script for Robot Overlords, so they worked together before. Excuse me. Hannah John Kamen is in this film. You might know her from some episodes of Black Mirror. She was in Ready Player One. She was in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which I haven't seen because I heard was bad. And she played a ghost in the film Ant-Man and the Wasp, which, if you know that, then you know she's a good actress. Also, Christian Nairn is in this, which most people know him as being Hodor from Game of Thrones. And the other big name is Colm Meaney, who you might not know him by name, but if you see him, you'll be like, oh yes, I've seen that guy before. He's been in a lot of stuff. He has like over 160 credits, acting credits on IMDb. He's been working for a while, but some highlights: Layer Cake, Con Air. He was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Star Trek The Next Generation. I think he's probably best known for his Star Trek work, but if you're a Star Trek fan, you'll 100% know who he is. But other people will probably see him, almost everyone will see him and be like, that guy, he looks real familiar. So once again, this is Shudder exclusive coming Friday, June 23rd. Quick synopsis: I never like to give too much away, but I did say it's a folk horror film. Starts with a couple who's living in England, I believe, in the actual city, and they are having a rough go of things. The woman becomes pregnant. They're very excited about that. But they decide we want to be a little bit safer. We want to be in a more comfortable place, so they decide to move out to a more rural setting where they, start to get their home feeling comfy for them. But then there's a horror element to it, and it's folk horror. So going to the rural, that's very typical of folk horror. I don't want to say anything past that, but it's horror. So there's horror involved, and you'll be able to, have maybe a vague clue about some stuff as I kind of talk through it, even though it's not spoilery. So the film starts with some solid humor that's thrown in while establishing backstory. And like I said, that humor is kind of throughout the film. Sometimes it's quite good. Sometimes it feels like it's kind of distracting from what's going on in the film. And sometimes it's just not all that funny. So up and down. I think mainly for the beginning, I don't know, like maybe half hour of the movie, maybe. I really enjoyed the comedic aspect of it, but then after that, it started to wane a little bit here and there. But you get a few lines that pop up where you're just like, oh, okay, that's pretty solid. It doesn't take much time before they actually get into something intense in the film. I'm not gonna, say anything about that, but it is one of those things where they kind of like do a sequence to kind of grab the audience. And then they'll give you the title screen, and then they kind of like take things back a little bit, and they're like, okay, let's go back to some strictly story stuff. So then after that, it does take quite some time before they really get to anything more intense and interesting, in my opinion. But there are other good elements of the film to kind of keep you watching, in my opinion. I quite like the camera work in this film. Plenty of smooth movement, as well as some really cool shot selection. I'm a big fan of, nice aesthetics, and this is a film where when you're watching it, you just take note, man, this camera work is really good. So cinematography really good, directing is also quite good for this film. Also the acting. I thought the acting was really well done, very enjoyable. It's not just that you're like, yeah, that's solid acting. For me, it was like, I'm enjoying the performances of a lot of these people. So that kind of speaks to the characters are pretty decent, plus the actors are really good at their job. So, yeah. There's some folklore that ends up getting introduced into this film that I dig. I like the folklore aspect of the film. I kind of wish that they would have gone even harder on that aspect of the film and kind of left some of the other stuff that I feel ends up distracting from the film at times. We would have left that out more, maybe cut that back. Because the other thing is, this is an hour and 44-minute film, and it feels like it's definitely too long. There's definitely too much kind of filler stuff. I think that's where a lot of the comedy starts to get lost for me, because they try to kind of like keep some of the comedic stuff going on. And there's a specific group of characters that they keep coming back to that they really didn't need to go as hard on as they did. Because, again, I think that ends up distracting from the best aspects of the film. So, yeah. Again, acting's very enjoyable. There's a point early on where you can easily guess where things are going to be going. Now, unfortunately, they take way too long after you're easily able to figure out where this is going. They take so long to actually get to it that you're just sitting there the whole time like, okay, come on, come on. Like, there's one thing like teasing something and then making people feel anticipation. But then when you're waiting too much longer after that, you just start to get disappointed with what's going on. And I got to that phase when I was watching the film. Eventually, we get there. And when we do get there, I think that's the most enjoyable portion of the film, other than the beginning of it. But yeah, it's just kind of like in the middle. It's kind of, yeah. I quite like the music that was used in this film. It isn't, for the most part, it isn't overdone too much. But I will say towards the end of the film, maybe the last, excuse me, like half hour or so, I think it gets a little bit overdone. They do kind of get to that stage of like screaming at you as an audience member with the music, which is kind of a big pet peeve of mine. But I like the composition of the music they use. Really good. There were a few moments, it wasn't a lot, but there were a few moments in the film that I noticed the ADR was off. So literally, like, the mouth movements were a tad bit off from the actual voices. It was one scene in particular, I didn't really notice it past that, so that was like a very minor thing, but I noticed it, just thought I'd bring it up, because I don't know if anyone else would end up seeing it and being like, am I just seeing things, or is this actually happening? Yes, it happened. The movie does start to feel a bit too distracted, as it ends up focusing too much on that one group of characters I talked about a little bit ago. Again, I don't want to spoil anything about those characters or anything, but I like those characters. I just don't like how much they felt like they needed to use those characters, and they just kind of stick with them way too long, and I feel like it distracts from, like I said before, the best aspect of the film, the most interesting stuff in the film. Great selection of shooting locations. They really do help the ambiance of the film. I think that's one of the great things. It has a wonderful ambiance, wonderful atmosphere. They create it early. They maintain it. It's got just this great, charming feel to it. And a big reason being the way it's shot, but also the shooting locations that they chose. So I really love those. There's something you're waiting for that definitely takes too long to happen. Kind of already talked about that. There are some fun sequences, but nothing ever feels all that intense due to the kind of overall tone of the film. I do wish they had gone a little bit less with the kind of like lighthearted nature and the humor that's in there. Maybe, scale that back a bunch. You can still have it in here a little bit, here and there. And that, kind of recipe is kind of hard to nail down. But if they had taken the comedic aspect down, I think it really would have helped the other portion of this film that's at play that I think is the most interesting portion of the film. So, just saying. It's definitely too long for what it is. Like I said before, it's an hour and 44 minutes with the credits and everything, and it's just too long. You will watch this film, you'll feel it, you'll be like, we did not need all of this. Although, I know there are people out there who love longer films like that, so that's fine as well. This film deals with the societal notion that urban living is dangerous and tough, where rural living is more relaxed and safe. And it's kind of doing this kind of comparison of being like, this is a commonly thought thing where it's like, oh, if you're going to live in the city, it's more dangerous, it's less relaxed than if you're going to move to to a rural area. Sorry, I can't speak. I don't know what's up. To a more rural area, then you're going to be more relaxed. People are going to be nicer. You're going to be safer. And it kind of plays around with that societal idea a little bit. And I'm not going to go any further than that. But yeah, it's not the major aspect of the film, but it is an aspect of the film. So overall, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give this a solid enough 3-star rating. I think it's good to watch, solid. I didn't hate watching it. I definitely enjoyed portions of it for sure, and overall enjoyed it enough. So let me know your thoughts about the film if you've seen it at this point, or you can go watch it, then come back and comment. Excuse me. Like it, hate it, in between, go ahead and put it down there. That'd be great. Oh, real quick, I got to do my shirt shout out. This is The Stuff. I love this shirt. It's like my favorite. Because of the colored lighting in the back, you might not be able to tell this is a purple shirt, but The Stuff logo. Love The Stuff. Anyway, do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Would greatly appreciate that. Hit the notification bell button because that way you'll know when I'm putting up new videos. Regardless, thanks so much for checking out this particular video. And until next time, keep it brutal.